People say the carp has the spirit of a dragon but lacks its form. Meanwhile, a loach has the dragon's bones but not its presence. But fate defied expectations for me. I was reborn as the most worthless loach. I couldn't even get a drop of water. I was about to die of thirst. Just when I thought I'd be starting over again, I unexpectedly gained an authentic dragon scale. And I even activated the Dragon Clan inheritance system. As long as I collect the 9 great traits of the divine dragon, I can truly become a real dragon. But right now, I'm about to kick the bucket from drought. Looking at a few dried up fish not far away, I feel an unprecedented sense of danger. The others are desperately squeezing deeper into the mud. But I know it's pointless. That will just get us all roasted dry by the scorching sun. I force myself to remain calm. Enduring the burning pain, I dive into a crack in the mud. The rock-hard soil bangs painfully against my head. But by instinct as a loach, I use my head to search for moisture in the cracks of the soil. Then, like a drill, I desperately dig downward. 1 inch, 2 inches, scraping against the dark sand. It burns like fire. My slime is rapidly being consumed. If I can't go any deeper, I'll end up trapped in the crack and die. My 3-inch body explodes with a desperate will to survive. Finally, after intense friction, I touch a hint of coolness. It's a patch of moisture that hasn't dried deep in the mud. I swing side to side in delight, and carve out a tiny nook just big enough for myself. I shrink inside completely. 3 days later, the last trace of coolness is gone. The drought is far worse than I imagined. My little nook starts to crack open. The hard, dry soil squeezes against my body. Every breath tastes like rust. My mind starts drifting away. Shadows of those who bully me in my past life flash before my eyes. Is it over just like this? No, I refuse to give in. I muster every last bit of strength and bite the parched mud hard. Just then, the air outside suddenly trembles in an odd way. A faint electric charge passes through the earth and reaches my body. A thunderous explosion roars over the back mountain. It erupts. The crimson sky instantly turns deep violet. A streak of purple-gold lightning, with an aura both divine and destructive, cuts across the sky. It strikes right in the center of the pond. The lightning lights up the ground, and reflects in my stunned eyes as well. At the very center of that light, I faintly see a brilliant golden glow, falling along with the thunderbolt. Is it hope or doom? I have no idea. All I can feel is a surge of immense power, sweeping toward me like a tidal wave. In that instant, the only thing left in my world is that purple gold lightning piercing my spirit. The ground rumbles violently. A terrifying shockwave instantly obliterates the little pond. The soil becomes rock hard in the intense heat. It turns into chunks as hard as cast iron. I'm flung high into the air, tumbling with searing hot mud and sand. Then I crash heavily into a pit at the edge of the pond. I cough up a mouthful of bloody water. My mind nearly goes blank. Through the hazy vision, I catch a glimpse of an enormous pit several fathoms deep forming in the pond's center. All the mud within 30 feet is instantly vaporized. The ground is condensed into a semi-transparent glaze. And at the heart of the crater, a golden pillar of light connects heaven and earth, standing tall. The beam isn't hot at all, but radiates grand and righteous vitality instead. With each pulse of the light column, a faint mist rises over the barren back mountain. Its spiritual energy, my heart races wildly. As a former menial disciple at an immortal sect, I know all too well what this energy signifies. A treasure that defies the heavens has appeared. At the center of the light floats a half-moon-shaped crystal the size of a palm, glowing brilliant gold all over. Stars flicker along its edges. Covered in intricate patterns, it faintly resonates with a dragon's roar. That's a dragon scale. In my previous life, while cleaning the archive pavilion, I saw mention of it in an anecdote collection. It said that when the divine dragon faces a millennium tribulation, its true spirit will descend to the world. Whoever obtains it can change fate itself. The life force spilling from the dragon scale makes my whole body tremble even at a dozen meters away. To me, on the brink of drying to death. This isn't just a treasure. It's my only chance of survival. I have to get over there. I try wagging my tail, but discover my body is covered with blood blisters from the heat. Every slight movement brings searing pain. What's worse, I'm now exposed under the blazing sun. The slime on my skin is drying at a rate visible to the naked eye. I've got at most 15 minutes left to live. A ruthless glint flashes in my eyes. I don't rush straight at the light pillar, but instead roll desperately around in the pit. Layer by layer, I coat myself with damp black mud, creating a sort of heat-proof armor. Soon after, I look like a lumpy ball of mud, leaving only my eyes exposed. I start inching toward the light column. This journey is like a walk through the underworld. The lingering heat of the thunderfire burns through the mud, searing my flesh. But I'm not the only contestant here. A few snails hidden in deep holes emerge, crawling forward, drawn by the dragon aura. But the instant they touch the glassy ground, they're instantly destroyed by the dragon energy. A giant frog, as big as a millstone, leaps up, trying to cross the distance. But the moment it enters the range of the light column, it's crushed by an invisible pressure and turns instantly to ash. What a terrifying pressure. Chills run through me. Higher energies can always suppress lower beings. Rushing in recklessly only means instant annihilation. The only reason I'm still alive is that the mud on me is mixed with my blood, which somehow faintly resonates with the container. Time ticks by second. My consciousness keeps fading. The mud on me starts cracking and flaking off. Blood crusts over before it can even flow out. 3 meters, the dragon scale is only 3 meters away now. The dragon aura here is so dense it's almost solid gold, tempting me to open my mouth and absorb the overflowing energy. It begins to repair my broken body, but at the same time, the violent energy keeps tearing my meridians apart. Just when I'm ready for a final dash, a chilling hiss echoes from a mud tunnel to my left. A bolt of red lightning shoots out, landing just 2 meters from the dragon scale. It's a long snake, all crimson with black stripes, about 2 meters in length. It's the recognized local overlord. It has even 1 foot in the golden-crowned ranks. The red-scaled snake locks its greedy eyes onto the scale. Greed fills its gaze. If it devours the scale, it can leap past a century of bitter cultivation and transform into a true snake demon. It turns its head, shooting me a cold glance. It seems to see me, this mud ball, as a mere snack. I freeze up. A 3-inch loach against a 2-meter fierce snake. This isn't even a fight. It's one-sided slaughter. And right at this moment, I lock eyes with the red-scaled snake's pupil. My body trembles, but my mind has never been so clear. In my past life, I died under the sword energy of a powerful cultivator, without even the chance to fight back. This time, even if I'm just a loach, I will never give up when hope is this close. Crushed like an ant once again, the red-spotted snake slowly opened its mouth, revealing a historically venomous, scarlet tongue dripping poison, almost touching the tip of my nose. Right as the red-spotted snake suddenly launched itself, a splash broke the silence of the once dead pond. A golden-red shadow shot through, blazing like fire, slamming straight into the red-spotted snake's vital spot. That flash of brilliance was especially striking against the withered pond's gray bottom. It was like a fire ignited in the depths of despair. A dull crash resounded. A 3-inch golden-red baby carp slammed fiercely into the red-spotted snake's weak spot. The red-spotted snake's deadly bite missed by a fraction. Wait, I recognize this baby carp. 3 days ago, I encountered it in my own little pit. It was nearly dehydrated and I felt pity for it. I pushed the last handful of water in the pit toward it. I thought it had already left this dried-up pond. Never expected it was still here. A dull crash resounded. The little one rammed with all her strength, making the red-spotted snake miss by a bit. But in pain, the red-spotted snake suddenly whipped its tail, knocking the little one far away. She crashed hard onto the cracked mud. Several golden scales fell off. Blood seeped from her gills and she fainted. Instantly, my eyes were filled with rage. In my previous life, I was used to survival of the fittest. Cold indifference became normal for me. But at this moment, a surge of unprecedented anger flooded my heart. I no longer hesitated. I suddenly lunged at the serpent. The instant I touched it, an immense, ocean-like power swept through my body. Dragon Clan essence detected. Dragon Heritage System officially activated. Host: Linmo species reverted, black-scaled mud loach. Evolution points: forest. Dragon traits unlocked: none. A cold mechanical voice echoed in my mind, listing 9 traits. Meanwhile, the red-spotted snake was already upon me. I held the unconscious little one, using the burst of system-provided protection. I rolled through a crack opened by a lightning strike and plunged down into a bottomless chasm. The deep underground was shrouded in darkness. I had no idea how long I had been falling, until finally, with a splash, I landed in a tiny underground pool. I was wrapped in icy river water. It eased the searing pain in my body. Carefully, I placed the little one on a smooth stone. Her life force was extremely weak, but luckily, her life wasn't in danger. Dragon scales emitted a faint golden light, enveloping her. It seemed to be slowly healing her wounds. High-purity dragon essence detected. Damaged true spirit automatically converted to 100 evolution points. Similar life force detected near the host. Dragon scales automatically activated bloodline resonance. First dragon trait unlocked. Carp tail fin 1/9. I was astonished to find my tail was changing. The originally slender Loach tail fin slowly transformed into wide, beautiful golden red. The carp tail fin looked exactly like the little ones. Turns out the dragon scale sensed generous presence. The carp bloodline activated on its own, merging our powers together. At the same time, within me, a world-shaking storm was raging. The golden dragon scale turned liquid in my belly the moment it entered. It became a mass of liquid gold. This energy was overwhelming. So overwhelming that a 3-inch loach couldn't possibly bear it. The liquid gold rampaged like a wild beast, rushing through my tiny veins. I could hear my bones dissolving, not crushed by outside force, but melted by the scorching dragon energy. This pain right now is as if my soul was placed in a furnace, burned repeatedly by true flames. Warning: host's body at maximum capacity, about to collapse. Help me, I don't want to die yet. I sent a faint distress signal from my consciousness. Ding! High purity dragon essence true spirit fragment detected. Forcibly suppressing. Suppression successful. As that cold voice faded, the searing heat threatening to tear me apart inside suddenly stopped. The rampaging liquid gold seemed to be smoothed by invisible hands, turned into tens of thousands of hair-thin golden streams, slowly and steadily, nourishing my broken organs and veins. On my retina, a panel appeared, radiating faint blue light, half-transparent. Host: Suzuki, species reverted, black-scaled mud loach. Near-death status, level, not ranked, talent, divine ability, none, fusion with dragon trait. Li Rai, 1/9, available evolution points, system space unlocked. Staring at that panel, my stalled thoughts finally began to function with difficulty. Devour and evolve. I tried using my consciousness to touch the panel. Greetings, host. This system manifests the laws of the Great Tao. Core rule: all things can devour bloodlines. Endless evolution. As long as the host devours evil creatures and acquires energy, it can be converted into purification. Consume purification. Host can repeatedly refine bloodline. Fuse the target's energy essence until you become the divine dragon of the 9 heavens. The explanation was cold and concise. Fusion with dragon trait. Li Tailfin 1/9. I recall in my previous life that ancient record mentioned. True dragon has 9 traits. Horns like a deer, head like a camel, eyes like a shrimp, neck like a snake, belly like a clam, scales like a fish, claws like an eagle, palms like a tiger, ears like a cow. I tried to ask the system, can I save her? The mechanical voice paused for a full 3 seconds, then answered, target's vital signs haven't completely disappeared, but has fallen into deep sleep. With your current abilities, you can't wake her. My heart sank, but I keenly caught a loophole in the system's words. Current abilities can't. What about in the future? If the host gathers all 9 true dragon traits, evolves into a divine dragon and controls the Tao of life, you can awaken her. After hearing this, my almost frozen fish heart suddenly burst into wild excitement. Good, I whispered heavily to myself. That's all I need. As long as there is hope. Even if I have to overturn this cultivation world. Even if I must slaughter all monsters around. I will collect those 9 traits. Before that, I must survive first. System, the energy in my dragon scale. Can it be converted to evolution points? Calculating. Dragon scale base energy settlement complete. Congratulations, host has received 100 base evolution points. Reminder, most of the dragon scale's remaining energy has been sealed within host's body. Host's physical strength must reach the threshold before gradual release. Staring at the 100 on the panel. Without any hesitation. Used all for evolution command. Confirm. Detected host species. Black-scaled mud loach. Physical condition. Extremely fragile. Here are the proposed evolutionary branches. Branch 1. Venomous mud loach. Focused on toxic attacks. Consumes 50 points. Branch 2. Wind chime mud loach. Focused on speed and escaping. Consumes 50 points. Branch 3. Black scale iron mud loach. Focused on defense and strength. Consumes 50 points. A vision instantly flashed in my mind of that obsessed, frenzied figure. In the bottom tier of the cultivation world, flashy attacks never compare to solid survivability. Only those who survive can deal damage. Especially with the crimson snake watching from above, ready to pounce. I must possess the physical strength to confront threats head-on. I choose Branch 3, Iron Mud Loach. Selection confirmed, consuming 50 evolution points. 50 evolution points remain. Just as I finished speaking, the originally gentle golden stream inside my body instantly changed its nature. They seemed to transform into countless tiny iron hammers, furiously pounding away at me. The freshly reorganized flesh and blood, I rolled in pain in the puddle. I could feel the originally soft, decaying black skin on me, rapidly peeling off. Taking its place, growing from deep within the flesh, were patches of jet black shiny scales as tough as diamonds. These scales were arranged in an extremely tight, hexagonal pattern. Each scale emitted a cold, metallic sheen. My bones were also being tempered by this power. The once fragile cartilage was being replaced by some unknown substance, becoming heavy and indestructible. What surprised me most was the sides of my head, where whiskers should have grown, actually burst through the flesh. 2 dark golden tendrils grew out. These tendrils were extremely resilient, swaying slightly with the water flow, even faintly carrying a trace of electricity. After about the length of a stick of incense, the pain washed away like a tide. I slowly lifted my head from the puddle. Although my body was still only 3 inches long, my appearance had completely transformed. I was no longer that slimy, ugly mutant mud loach. The jet black, shiny scales fit snugly against my streamlined body. The fins had become sharp as blades, especially those eyes that now glowed with a predatory chill. I applied a bit of force. My slender tail lashed sharply beneath the water. That puddle, about the size of a basin, was struck by my blow. A visible flash of water was whipped up. Several blocking rocks were pulverized into fine dust. My strength increased at least 3-fold. My speed was so fast, I left a blurred trail underwater. Purification complete. Mixed breed black-scaled iron mudfish. Trait: iron scales. Physical defense increased by 200%. Instant explosive power when focusing energy. Faint electrical currents on the tendrils cause paralysis. I felt this unprecedentedly powerful body. A surge of boldness rose in my heart. With extremely gentle movements, I took the inherited body and stored it in the system's inventory space. Then I raised my head. Those dark gold-colored tendrils gently reached toward the top of the pitch-black fissure. Just then, a violent tremor came from above the crack. The crimson serpent had actually dug through the mud layer and followed the fissure downward in pursuit. His cold vertical pupils stared fixedly at me. He opened his bloody jaws and lunged to bite. My gaze sharpened. I didn't dodge. Instead, I rushed straight toward the serpent's jaws. At the moment its mouth snapped shut, I wedged my hardest dorsal scales between its venomous fangs. With a crunch, the crimson serpent's venomous fang was forcibly snapped off by me. Taking advantage of its pain, I twisted my body abruptly, slipped along its mouth's edge and squeezed between its scales. Using my sharp snout, I kept attacking the weak spots beneath its scales. Meanwhile, I unleashed all the electrical paralysis from my tendrils. Its trial serpent furiously thrashed against the rock walls, trying to throw me off. But I clung tightly to its body, constantly searching for its weak points. Finally, I found the spot where its heart beat. Using all my strength, I rammed into it hard. A dull thud echoed. The crimson serpent's movements stopped abruptly. Its massive body twitched a few times, then went completely still. Defeated Tier 1 ferocious beast Crimson Serpent and gained 200 evolution points and acquired the flexible skeleton trait. Can greatly bend the body and resist impacts. I swam from the body of the Crimson Serpent to the side of the well. It was still asleep, but its breathing had become much calmer. I carefully placed it into the system's storage space. Then I looked up toward the fissure above. Though the Crimson Serpent was dead, there were more dangers outside. I must get stronger quickly to protect Jia and survive in this cruel world. Jia's revenge is done. My voice echoed throughout the sea world, deep and resolute. Wait for me, until I gather all 9 true dragon traits. Until the day I become a divine dragon, I will definitely save you. I, Lin Mo, swear, even if I must travel through the 9 netherworlds, I will never fail you. Just as I made this solemn vow, a strange excitement suddenly stirred inside me. The golden dragon scale, which had been sealed within me by the system, seemed to sense my intense and unwavering determination and began shaking violently. Warning: detected intense emotional fluctuations from host. Farmer's surplus energy has prematurely triggered resonance. Detection: host's current evolution points and carp origin have met the realm requirements. System notification: host is about to begin the first major evolution of life form. Host, please prepare yourself. As the system's urgent prompts echoed, an extremely dazzling golden light burst out forcefully from within me. In an instant, my 3-inch body was completely enveloped. From the depths, the darkness was utterly dispelled by the brilliant golden light. The light wasn't harsh, but tightly wrapped around me. It formed a cocoon, with mysterious runes flowing across its surface. I could clearly feel that the once indestructible black scale iron skin was cracking bit by bit. It wasn't shattered by force, but shed like a cicada molt. My old body could no longer contain what was about to come. Birth of new life, evolution program activated and underway. Gene recombination in progress. Carp tail fin, 1/9, deep bloodline being invoked. Residual energy from the dragon scales is reshaping my skeleton. Accompanied by the system's icy prompt, my body began undergoing drastic changes. First came my size. My 3-inch body expanded like a balloon, stretching wildly. My bones crackled and popped loudly, transforming from cartilage into a semi-translucent jade-like skeleton, stretching a foot, then 2 feet, until it reached just over 3 feet. Only then did the rapid growth halt. Next came the scales. The old black dead skin fell off. The new scales were no longer that dark iron black, but appeared a deep, mysterious blue-black instead. Their edges emitted a faint, shadowy blue glow. These scales not only possessed stronger defense than iron skin, but were covered in a strange diamond pattern, as if they could automatically reduce water resistance. The most noticeable changes happened to my head and tail. On my once smooth, cone-shaped mudfish head, right above both eyes, 2 small flesh bumps formed forcefully. Though true horns hadn't grown yet, the faint dragon aura emanating from those bumps was enough to terrify any normal beast. As for my tail, originally mudfish, that slender, inconspicuous tail fin completely shed, replaced by a wide, beautiful, brilliant gold-red carp tail fin. That was Jin's gift to me, and my first step from Earth into becoming a dragon. Finally, on both sides of my abdomen, where there were only tiny pectoral fins before, short but strong limbs began to sprout, though now still just lumps of flesh, and no claws yet, but it signified I had left the realm of a mere fish. Dang, evolution complete. Congratulations, host, on transcending ordinary species and entering the monster beast ranks. The light cocoon suddenly shattered, becoming golden sparkles absorbed into my body. I slowly opened both eyes. Those once dull grayfish eyes were now a deep, dark gold, as if thunder and rippling water flowed deep within my pupils. A brand new panel appeared before my eyes. Host, fallen race, Zhan Shui small jiao, tail dragon type, level, otherworldly monster beast. Dragon trait fused, carp tail fin. 1/9 Xuan Shui small jiao. I gazed at my own long imposing blue-black body and felt within me a demon force roaring like mighty rivers. A sensation of unprecedented power filled my whole body. I'm no longer a mudfish awaiting slaughter. A 3-foot-long body, though compared to the true giant monsters of the immortal world, is still modest. But in this secular back mountain, I now possess absolute self-protection. More importantly, I've gained water control and cloud riding, these two innate dragon abilities in their budding form. It's time to go out. I suddenly whipped that gold-red carp tail and unleashed powerful force. I exploded a cluster of bubbles right in the cramped puddle. My form shot forth like a streak of blue lightning. Following the crack where I originally fell, I charged straight upward, using my water control to move westward. Within the underground soil, the remnants of faint stone energy were forcibly gathered by me, transforming into a thin water film that covered my scales, significantly reduced the friction against the rock wall. In just a few breaths, I broke through the surface layer of earth. The long-lost sunlight shone upon my dark blue scales, reflecting a cold and noble radiance. I inhaled the air above ground, which still carried the scent of burning. Looking down at this dried pond that once trapped me and nearly cost me my life. Now, the dried pond, after being cleansed by thunder and dragon energy, the glass-like layer on the surface is starting to fade. Green grasses are sprouting from the soil around. Even the parched pond bottom is seeing groundwater slowly seep through. Give it some time. This place will again become a vibrant water domain. But I know, this shallow puddle can no longer support me, Zhaojiang. I turned my head toward the foothills, where a small river flows around the mountain. Its end connects to a much broader body of water. That's where my new hunting ground lies. I took a deep breath, just about to use my cloud-leaping power to leave this wasteland. Suddenly, my sharp senses detected a dangerous aura. I whipped my head around, looking in the direction of the scent. About 30 yards from the dried pond, at the edge of the burned-out deadwood forest, a pair of ghostly green eyes stared intensely at me. It was a large wildcat, bizarrely oversized. Its fur was an unhealthy gray-black hue. Even stranger, its body was emitting wisps of visible black mist. Within that black mist was a strong scent of blood and decay, contrasting sharply with the reviving vitality of the area. Demonic energy shocked me. In my past life as a menial at an immortal sect, I once smelled this scent from disciples out slaying monsters who were on expeditions outside. This isn't an ordinary Volf. It's a demon-corrupted, mutated beast. That demon Volf was clearly attracted by the dragon energy I released when I evolved, though it arrived too late, missing its chance for dragon scales. Now it looks at Zhao Zhao radiating vibrant life and faint dragon aura. Its greed has turned into palpable hunger. If it devours Xiao Jiao, it can finally shed its Volf body and transform into a true demon. The demon Volf let out a deep growl. Watch as its sharp-clawed forelimbs dig at the rocky ground, suddenly turning into a streak of black star-like wind, carrying a nauseating demonic energy. It lunged wildly at me, faced with a beast several times my size, and shrouded in uncanny black mist. There wasn't a hint of retreat in my eyes. Instead, a blazing will to fight rose up. Perfect chance to test out the techniques of my Zhuanshen sect. I bend my body. The blue-red Li Wei Qi slapped sharply in the void. The remaining water vapor around was instantly extracted by me. At the edge of the scorched deadwood forest, demonic and monstrous energies collided fiercely. That demon volve covered in strange black mist was like a bolt of black lightning, opening its bloody jaws full of fangs. It came at me with savage intent. Wherever the demonic energy passed, the patches of dirty grass that had managed a hint of green withered and turned yellow instantly. You've come back at just the right time. I'll use you to consecrate my flag. I let out a cold snort. There was not a hint of fear within the deep, dark, golden thickets. I didn't choose to evade. Instead, I took that newly acquired demon power that was surging like a river within my body and frantically injected it into the space beneath me. Cloud treading. I let out a low cry within my sea of consciousness. The already thin water vapor in the surrounding air seemed to receive some kind of mandatory summons from a supreme law, instantly gathering beneath my 4 limbs that had yet to grow claws. A tiny cluster of mist, as dense as white cotton, grew out of thin air, holding up my 3-foot-long cyan-black body. The demon Volf's teeth, sharp enough to crush rock, snapped shut violently, but only bit into an afterimage, and a few wisps of damp mist. Using the power of cloud treading, my body moved in a way that defied common logic in midair. Like a light, falling leaf, I instantly rose 30 feet higher, steadily hovering right above the demon Volf's head. Experiencing flight for the first time, a surge of wild joy welled up in my heart. Although this basic cloud treading only allowed me to be a few dozen feet off the ground, for brief glides and leaps, it had already broken the shackles of an aquatic creature. The demon Volf, having missed its strike, looked up in bewilderment. Those murky Volf eyes, corroded by demonic energy, flashed with a hint of disbelief. In its understanding, how could a fish or a serpent fly into the sky? But I didn't give it time to think. Being high up in the air, I opened my long snout filled with sharp, fine teeth from a commanding height. The poison glands in my body surged frantically. The originally sickly green venom of the seductive god, after merging with my black water fusion power, underwent a terrifying and fatal mutation. A thick, cyan-colored poison, like a flood breaking a dam, spewed forth from my mouth. It instantly enveloped the area below, spanning 30 feet wide. This was no longer simple venom, but a gaseous killing field. The moment the demon Volf was enveloped by the cyan mist, it let out an incredibly shrill and agonizing scream. In just 3 breaths, that massive and overbearing demon Volf collapsed with a thud within the toxic mist. Its life force was completely severed. Detected carcasses of beasts contaminated by demonic energy. The system has automatically removed demonic impurities. Devouring successful. Congratulations, host, on your evolution. 30 points. Only 30 points. I withdrew my cloud-treading ability and landed on a clean rock. It seems most of this demon Volf's cultivation was contaminated by demonic energy. To ensure the purity of my bloodline, the system only extracted that most primal sliver of life force. But I didn't mind. I didn't even scratch a scale in this battle. It was a complete one-sided crushing victory. I raised my head, looking past this dried-up pond, toward the base of the back mountain. There lay a river winding like a jade belt. The sound of the rushing clear river's water, for me at this moment, possessing the bloodline of a black water flood dragon, felt like a mother's call. It was full of fatal allure. How can a dragon be trapped in a dried pond? Clear river, here I come. I stretched my body, my golden red koi-like tail fin slapping hard against the air. A cluster of white mist gathered under me again via cloud treading. This time I didn't linger, but instead steered this small cloud of mist down the slope of the back mountain, like a cyan meteor, streaking toward the clear river at the bottom of the mountain. The wind whistled past my ears. I watched the trees and rocks receding beneath my feet, and the frustration suppressed for 2 lifetimes. was finally released in this wind-breaking glide. The distance of hundreds of feet was covered in an instant. With a splash, my 3-foot-long body sent up a huge spray as I dove precisely into the clear river, into those clear and deep river waters. The moment I entered the water, I couldn't help but let out a sound of pure comfort. This is the true home turf of a black water flood dragon. The water of the clear river was cool, and the spiritual energy was abundant. The current was no longer a resistance. Instead, it felt like an extension of my body. I didn't need to swim intentionally. With just a single thought, the surrounding current would automatically push me forward. The field of vision here was extremely broad. Sunlight penetrated the water's surface, casting mottled shadows on the pebbles at the riverbed. But soon I keenly perceived that beneath these seemingly calm and clear waters lay extremely cruel killing intent. Just as I had sunk to the bottom, and hadn't even had time to admire the underwater scenery, over a dozen dark shadows suddenly darted out from the weeds ahead. It was a school of silver-gray piranhas, with teeth as sharp as saw blades. They weren't large, about the size of a palm, but there were many of them, and they had a near-manic aggressiveness toward blood and unfamiliar faces. In their eyes, this 3-foot-long creature that had just fallen into the water carrying the scent of demon-volf blood was nothing more than an extremely sumptuous lunch. Ignorant pests. I let out a cold laugh. I didn't even bother to use spells, simply hovering quietly in the water, allowing those dozen piranhas to bite down frantically. A series of harsh scraping sounds echoed underwater. The sharp teeth of those piranhas bit into my deep cyan scales, and far from tearing off even a piece of flesh, countless teeth were snapped off instead. With my flexibility and agility, how could these trash fish, not even considered common-grade beasts, break through my defense? Since you've had your fun, it's my turn. My gaze turned cold. My golden-red koi-like tail fin whipped violently in the water. This tail strike contained a terrifyingly powerful explosion. A vacuum vortex was directly created at the bottom. The powerful undercurrent, like an invisible iron wall, slammed hard into the school of piranhas. There was no contest. A dozen piranhas were instantly crushed by the massive water pressure. Crimson blood diffused underwater. Devoured a school of common-grade piranhas. Obtained 20 evolution points. I didn't linger, swimming downstream with the current of the clear river, in this ecosystem that was countless times larger than the dried pond. I was like a hungry wolf that had broken into a flock of sheep. Along the way, any low-level predator that dared to snap at me, giant leeches or various fish, or even the poisonous water snakes lurking in the mud, were all directly crushed and devoured by my overwhelming power. After some time, following the current, I arrived at a deep pool where the flow was relatively gentle. Devoured low-level aquatic creatures along the way. Accumulated 50 evolution points. Current total evolution points, 80. Listening to the system prompts, I contentedly coiled up on a massive green rock. Just as I was about to close my eyes to rest and organize the demonic power within me, those dark golden whiskers suddenly twitched slightly. I sensed that in the crevice beneath the green rock, there was an extremely weak vibration. Yet the spiritual energy it radiates is unusually balanced and peaceful. Come out. I've noticed you for a while now. I'm using water to transmit my voice. There is a hint of authority in the voice. After a moment of dead silence, the sand beneath the bluestone slowly starts to move. A giant old turtle, as huge as a millstone, with a thick layer of green moss on its back, crawled warily out from between the rocks. On this old turtle's shell, there were cracks left by the ravages of time. In his pea-sized eyes, there was a look of awe and distinctly human emotion. This old one, greets the Lord Dragon. You've actually awakened your spiritual intelligence? You can transmit your voice through divine sense. In the world of cultivation, it's extremely difficult for ordinary beasts to gain true intelligence. Unless they've eaten some kind of rare heavenly treasure, or have lived long enough naturally absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The old turtle gave a bitter smile. I've muddled along in this clear river for 80 years. Years ago, by sheer luck, one found a 100-year-old aquatic plant in the river, and only then managed to gain a little bit of spiritual intelligence. Sir, even though your dragon horns aren't fully formed, the pressure of a true dragon coming from you can be felt from 30 yards away. Since you've lived in this river for 80 years, you must be pretty familiar with it. Tell me about the rules of the clear river. The old turtle saw I had no intention to kill him, and relaxed a little. He respectfully spoke while laying at the bottom of the river. Sir, there is something you may not know. The clear river water system stretches for hundreds of miles. Though it's a land of treasures, it's also filled with danger. Now, the clear river is divided among 3 overlords, each controlling their own territory. Oh. 3 serpent overlords? The old turtle nodded. His voice trembled a bit. The lower stream is ruled by the green shrimp king. He commands thousands and thousands of green water shrimp. He himself has grown over half a meter long, with giant pincers gleaming coldly, strong enough to crush giant rocks easily. His temperament is extremely fierce. The middle stream belongs to a black water buffalo. That beast was originally an ordinary water buffalo from the riverbank, but somehow gained some special fortune in the river, and became thick-skinned and tough-fleshed, with inexhaustible strength. When he gets angry, he can control the current to create massive whirlpools. All the aquatic creatures in the middle stream can only submit to him. At the very source of the upper stream, that's where the real absolute overlord of the clear river resides, the black crocodile's domain. This is a gigantic black crocodile that's lived for hundreds of years, over 10 meters long. The scales covering its body can't even be cut through by cultivators' flying swords. It rarely comes to the mid or lower stream, but whenever it appears, the whole river runs red with blood. Green shrimp king, black water buffalo, black crocodile. I silently recited these 3 names to myself. I felt no fear, but rather an excited gleam appeared in my eyes. In my opinion, these so-called overlords are basically just 3 giant geese on legs, with evolutionary traits and dragon clan genes. The old turtle seemed to see my fighting spirit. You may have noble blood, but you've only recently become a flood dragon. If I may be so bold to advise you, things here in Clear River haven't really been peaceful, especially around the source of the upper stream. These past few days, blinding golden lights have often shot up to the sky, even making the river water boil. Golden light? All the old monsters in the river are saying it's a sign of an ancient dragon vein awakening, and a great opportunity is about to surface. Right now, the ferocious beasts from the surrounding mountains are even rushing toward the upper reaches of the King River in swarms. If you go there now, it would be no different from a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. The dragon vein is awakening. My heart gave a sudden leap. The dragon scale fragments within my body seemed to sense some kind of movement, becoming slightly warm. I know all too well that when it comes to opportunities, if heaven offers and you do not take, you will suffer the consequences instead. Since a dragon vein is awakening upstream, then for a black water flood dragon like me, there is absolutely no reason to miss it. Thank you for the information. I straightened my body, my gold-red tail fin swaying slightly. But since I have come to this King River, there can only be one overlord in these waters, I said, ignoring the shocked old gray, transforming into a green sharp sword, and charged straight out of the deep pool. Following the direction of Ganzhou, I headed swaggeringly toward the depths of the downstream waters. I'll start by dealing with your king shrimp first, to plunder evolution points, and prepare for the fight for the dragon vein upstream. However, just as I entered a gourd-shaped canyon in the main stream, the current around the waterway suddenly came to an eerie standstill. It wasn't the stillness brought by water control magic, but a stoppage caused by countless dense objects forcibly blocking the flow of the water. A burst of extremely dense, scalp-numbing sounds of shells clashing, came from the water weeds and rock crevices in all directions. I stopped and looked around. Before I knew it, above, below, left, and right, I was completely surrounded by densely packed thousands of large green shrimp. Each shrimp was the size of an adult's palm, wielding sharp shrimp spears, their pairs of crimson eyes staring intently at me. And directly in front of this swarm, the current slowly parted to both sides. A giant green shrimp of an exaggerated size, over 1/2 meter long, slowly emerged like an underwater chariot. His body was covered in a layer of thick shell that looked as if it were cast in bronze. Most striking were the two massive, disproportionate claws in front of him. The edges of the great pincers, even underwater, glimmered with a bone-chilling metallic cold light. The overlord of the Lower King River, the Green Shrimp King. The whiskers on the Green Shrimp King's mouth twitched violently, emitting a harsh, grinding sound. His two bulging compound eyes stared greedily as his two great pincers clashed fiercely in front of him, producing a deafening, earth-shattering metallic ring. By eating you, this king can transform into a shrimp dragon. Thousands of green armored water shrimp shot out like arrows from a bow, overwhelmingly swarming toward me in the center of the water to kill. Inside the gourd-shaped waterway of the Lower King, the water began to boil completely. It wasn't from a rise in temperature, but from the terrifying killing intent, erupting simultaneously from thousands of green armored shrimp, forcibly churning this area of water into a massive vortex of slaughter. Transform into a shrimp dragon? A hard-shelled insect like you thinks it's worthy of the word dragon? I hovered in the center of the water, facing the overwhelming green torrent. In my dark gold pupils, there wasn't a hint of panic, only undisguised contempt and mockery. Kill him, the Green Shrimp King issued a tyrannical telepathic command. That pair of massive bronze pincers waved underwater, stirring up small vortices of undercurrents. The dozens of green shrimp in the lead were like sharp arrows released from a string, brandishing the needle-sharp shrimp spears on their heads. Using the momentum of the current, they stabbed fiercely toward my face. A mass charge from such low-level aquatic tribes, for any aquatic demon beast of the same rank, would be fatal. Because underwater evasion space is limited, once surrounded, one would be torn to pieces alive by those spears and pincers. But I am no ordinary demon beast. Water control. I shouted coldly in my heart. I didn't choose to dodge at all. That gold-red carp tail fin vibrated fiercely in the water with a wonderful rhythm. An invisible ripple instantly spread outward with me as the center. The originally calm river water felt as if it had suddenly turned into a hard iron wall. Those dozens of green shrimp charging in the lid felt as if they hadn't stabbed into water, but had crashed into an invisible wall. A dull thud sounded. The massive counterforce instantly snapped the spears of these dozens of green shrimp, and even their fragile head carapaces were shattered by the impact. Green body fluids instantly diffused into the water. Why isn't the water obeying us? The shrimp swarm at the back sent out signals of terror. As aquatic creatures, it was the first time they felt that the water they rely on for survival had actually become the enemy's weapon. It's not over yet. A cruel curve formed at the corner of my mouth. The demonic power within my body surged wildly, and the pressure belonging to a black water flood dragon was released without reservation. Poison spread. I opened my mouth. The green poison that could originally only spray 10 meters, with the enhancement of the water control magic, instantly merged into the surrounding current. The originally clear river water, in the blink of an eye, turned into a miserable green poisonous swamp. Shrill sounds of corrosion echoed through the water. The hard shells that those green shrimp were so proud of, upon contact with this poisonous flow mixed with the essence of the scarlet chain snake and the power of the flood dragon, were like thin ice under a fierce fire. They rapidly bubbled, dissolved and softened. Extremely tragic shrieks erupted from the shrimp swarm. Countless green shrimp rolled in agony in the poisonous water, their corroded bodies twitching uncontrollably. In just a few breaths of time, The life force of over 100 green shrimp was cut off. Devoured a large number of green shrimp. Gained evolution points. 15 points, 20 points. The system's notifications kept ringing in my mind. Although the evolution points provided by these low-tier creatures were few, their sheer numbers were overwhelming. A bunch of trash. Useless. The Green Shrimp King saw the swarm he was so proud of suffer heavy losses in just a few moments, without even touching the opponent's scales. He instantly let out a roar of furious rage. He finally realized that this seemingly young green flood dragon was definitely not something that could be killed by numbers alone. This king will tear you apart personally. The Green Shrimp King's massive body gave a sudden spring. He didn't charge in a straight line like the ordinary green shrimp. He displayed an agility completely inconsistent with his size. His tail slapped the water repeatedly, his entire body like a heavy underwater tank. Trailing a series of violent bubbles, he closed in on me instantly in an eerie C-shaped path. What incredible speed! My eyes narrowed. I had intended to use water control magic to block him, but the Green Shrimp King's charging force was too great. That pair of half-meter-long pincers savagely tore apart the water wall I had condensed. In the Green Shrimp King's bulging crimson compound eyes, there was nothing but cruelty. His left pincer was raised high, carrying terrifying power enough to crush diamonds, aiming straight for my neck. He wanted to snip off this noble head directly. When it comes to physical combat, I've never feared anyone. Instead of retreating, I advanced. I didn't use poison, because I know opponents of this caliber have extremely high shell defense, and venom is hard to take effect quickly. I suddenly twisted my body. Those deep blue scales. My tough body was like a steel whip, dodging the sharp claws, and fiercely struck the side of King Prawn's abdomen near his eye. A huge metallic clash exploded underwater. I felt my tail was striking an iron mountain. The massive shock made my scales tingle. But King Prawn wasn't comfortable either. Although he used his other big claw to protect his eye in time, his massive body was still forced backward several meters in the water by my powerful blow. Such hard scales. King Qingjie was secretly shocked, but his greed outweighed his fear. He pounced again with both huge claws, like two massive scissors, wildly waving in the water, creating deadly blades of water, swiping and slicing. In this gourd-shaped water zone, an extremely dangerous close-range brawl unfolded. Mud and sand surged underwater. The aquatic plants around were shattered by the terrifying currents. The remaining prawns didn't dare approach a battle of this level. They could only hide far away at the edge, trembling in fear. This guy's shell is too thick. It's just like a turtle shell. After several collisions, I discovered my attacks could knock King Prawn back, but couldn't leave a fatal mark on his bronze-like shell. No lethal wounds. And King Prawn's two claws were extremely agile. Not only was his attack power amazing, he could perfectly defend all vital spots. If I had my sword, this prawn would have been sliced into pieces. I thought to myself, I have strength now, but I lack power to break his shell. Little Zhao, you have quite some strength, but you can't break my shell. When you run out of strength, I'll eat you, bite by bite. He suddenly changed tactics, no longer using his big claws to target my weak spots, but instead pinpointed a slight opening exposed. As I dodged, his huge claw suddenly lunged forward. Oh no, I was alarmed. I tried to break free, but King Prawn had been preparing for this attack. His speed was at its peak. A crisp snapping sound. King Prawn's huge, cold pincer, like a steel clamp, clamped down on me tightly, right on my golden red koi tail. I gasped underwater. Although my scales were evolved twice, and my defense was absurdly high, the crushing force from his big claw still made me feel piercing pain, as if my bones were about to shatter. Got you. King Prawn's compound. His eyes flashed with wild joy and cruelty.
His giant body suddenly sank down, hard.
Both front arms firmly gripped the riverbed rocks, fixing his body in place. At the same time, the big claw clamped on my tail began to exert force, and twisted fiercely in the opposite direction. He was trying to twist my tail off alive. That bone-grinding sound was clearly audible in the deep water. King Qingsha's giant right claw was like a hydraulic clamp, biting tightly onto my golden red koi tail fin, continuously exerting a force strong enough to twist steel. Waves of intense pain assaulted my nerves. I could even feel the scales at the base of my tail fin cracking one by one. Dark red blood seeped out from the gaps of his big claw, staining the surrounding waters. Wanna twist off my tail, dream on at this life or death moment. I didn't utter a single cry of pain. Instead, in my dark gold vertical pupils, a surge of madness and chilling calm exploded, sending a shiver down one's spine. I didn't struggle desperately like ordinary prey, because I knew very well. At this moment, the king prawn was tightly gripping the rocks at the riverbed. Struggling blindly would only accelerate the breaking of my tailbone. I took a deep breath of river water, mixed with my own blood, and summoned all the remaining demonic power in my body. Supple and agile, bone shrinking, I shouted in my mind. My body, usually stretched straight and 3 fingers thick, suddenly became oddly soft in that instant. It felt as if I'd turned into a boneless rope. Taking advantage of this sudden flexibility, I not only neutralized most of the force from the king prawn's twisting, but also took the opportunity to wrap my massive dark blue-scaled body around him like a python strangling its prey, coiling tighter and tighter, and fiercely entwined around the king prawn's thrashing claw, as well as his relatively slender neck. "Qingshao King," he exclaimed in shock and alarm. The strangling tactic he prided himself on not only didn't work, but instead let this little jiao fish stick to me like glue. "Get off!" The king prawn swung his other free left claw, trying to cut me off from his neck. But how could I possibly give him that chance? The instant my coils took shape, the pair of dark gold feelers on my temples were already like 2 cold, poisonous snakes, silently pressing against the joint of the king prawn's shell, right on those fragile membrane joints. My electric feelers burst out at full power, discharging every bit of my lightning demonic power. Holding nothing back, I unleashed it all. A dazzling, eerie blue electric net exploded in the dark depths of the riverbed. This was no longer a faint jolt to paralyze a little snake, but amplified by the mystical water jiao's power, possessed enough thunder mayhem to instill terror in any aquatic beast. Water was always the best conductor. The king prawn's massive body jerked violently. That searing shock that struck the soul and nerves finally left his huge body powerlessly slumped on the muddy riverbed. Only a few feelers were still twitching in vain. I swam forward slowly and stared at this former unrivaled overlord of the lower Qing River. Such is the cruel law of the world of cultivation. The king prawn's enormous body twitched violently once more, then completely lost all life.
Ding!
System has detected the near-death ultimate stage 1 demon, king prawn. Target life signs have disappeared. Devouring successful. Congratulations, host. Evolution achieved. 500 points detected. Target contains an extremely thin trace of dragon blood. The mutant form is being deeply analyzed and extracted. Congratulations, host. Dragon trait gene pool entry successfully extracted and matched. Blind eyes. Hearing the system chime, my heart, exhausted by battle, suddenly jumped. Blind eyes, one of the 9 great dragon traits. I didn't expect that just by coming here to harvest a little evolution. I would unexpectedly trigger a second dragon trait drop. Fuse immediately. Dragon trait, shrimp eyes. Fusion process may cause mild discomfort. Fuse now, fusion. I gave the command without hesitation. And with my order, the king prawn's massive corpse turned into a cluster of impossibly pure teal light and roared straight into my eyes. All I could sense was my eyes being flooded with molten iron, a painfully burning and swelling sensation that made me roll around at the bottom of the river. But I forced myself not to close my eyes. Amidst the pain, I could feel the structure inside my eyeballs undergoing cataclysmic change. My field of vision, which could once see only forward and to the sides, was now in an incredible way, extending to the back, above, and below every direction at once. Only after the time it takes to burn an incense stick did the burning finally fade away. I stopped rolling around. Hovering in the crystal clear river water, I slowly opened my eyes. In that instant, the whole world looked completely different to me. My eyeballs didn't bulge out like chinchas, but were still those deep, dark gold vertical pupils. But now I had no blind spots at all in my vision. Even positioned directly behind me, a single blade of water grass swaying with the current was crystal clear to my eyes. More terrifying was my insight. What is that? Amazed, I stared forward and discovered that I could see even a single grain of sand 100 meters away. I could even see the flow trajectories of the water, those seemingly chaotic dark currents and whirlpools, in my eyes, transformed into visible threads. If I wanted to, I could follow these lines effortlessly, reducing resistance to a minimum, or even use the currents to my advantage. This is what a true underwater overlord's eyes should be. I was overcome with joy. With these blind eyes combined with my water-controlling powers, nothing in these waters could beat me. If any aquatic demon beast wants to escape from me, that's nothing but a fool's dream. Fusion complete. Currently fused dragon traits. Li Ryuchi blind eyes 2 ninths. Looking at the system panel and my surging 500 evolution points, I was filled with confidence. Just as I was about to get myself together and organize this freshly conquered domain to scavenge some loot, my newly evolved blind eyes suddenly detected a distant disturbance in the water flow. At the edge of my vision, in the direction of the midstream Qing River, the previously calm flow lines were abruptly ripped apart by a violent force, and a massive funnel-shaped whirlpool was charging downstream, thundering along the river with overwhelming momentum. A low, angry bellow like distant thunder, along with billowing waves, snapped all the surrounding water grass around me. And right at the center of that massive vortex, a creature, towering like a small mountain, its body covered in black scales, glared with blood-red eyes, leading a horde of shadowy bull demons behind him, charging at us with murderous intent. It was the overlord of the midstream, the Blackwater Bull. The muffled bellow of the bull underwater was almost tangible, rumbling down the calabash-shaped lower river channel. Our twin pupils pierced the murky water curtain, locking fiercely onto the ominous scene ahead, that terrifying display surging toward us. In waters just a few dozen yards away from me, the once relatively calm river was violently torn apart by a barbaric force, as a massive underwater vortex, more than 5 yards wide, raged forward like a ravenous beast, howling as it advanced. And at the very center of that whirlpool, an enormous, suffocating black monster charged over the crests of the waves. That was the undisputed overlord of the middle reaches of the Qing River, the Blackwater Bull compared to ordinary river bulls. This Blackwater Bull's body was like a moving hill. Its shoulders alone were at least 10 feet tall, and its body stretched over 30 feet. There wasn't a single hair covering its hide, but instead, its body was shielded in thick, rough black scales like basalt. The most striking feature was the pair of thick bull horns on its head, as black as ink. Ancient spiral patterns cover its surface. Every movement it makes in the water causes violent turbulence in the surrounding currents. Whenever the black water buffalo appears at the riverbed, it triggers small earthquakes in this stretch of riverbed. Countless sand and mud are stirred up, turning the waters into something as murky as sludge. And right behind him follows over 100 smaller-sized, but equally fierce water buffalo beasts. They charge forward like an armored cavalry unit, trampling the remaining shrimp troops of the king blue prawn. Is this the ruler of the midstream? What an overwhelming formation. I'm suspended in the water, my dark blue scales glowing faintly in the dim depths, with a cold sheen. In front of the black water buffalo, my body seems no more than an insignificant twig. Yet my gaze is as deep as the abyss, not a ripple of emotion. The black water buffalo charges to within less than 30 feet of me, and abruptly stops in its tracks. Its massive momentum creates currents around it, forming a water wall several yards high. The wall crashes heavily onto the riverbed, with a deafening thud. The black water buffalo's eyes, as huge as bronze bells, shine with a violent red glow. Looking down from above, staring at the creature before it, a 3-foot-long green rubber-like animal. Its nostrils shoot out 2 thick jets of water, creating a strong undertow. So, you little reptile, you're the one who killed that useless, stinking shrimp. A coarse and rough wave of psychic energy, filled with a strong nasal tone, hits my mind like a giant boulder. Clearly, this black water buffalo has awakened intelligence. And its psychic force is even more refined than the king blue prawns, carrying the arrogance and madness of a longtime ruler. I am not intimidated by this psychic oppression. I raise my head slightly, the one with 2 little bumps on it. A trace of blood flickers among the dark golden bush. That stinking shrimp was too weak. And you, big dumb buffalo, are you here to avenge him? Avenge him? That useless fool with the hard shell. I've disliked him for a long time. Dead is dead. His blood-red eyes lock onto me, greed nearly overflowing from his gaze. It's because I smell dragon aura on you. The black water buffalo suddenly steps forward. The terrifying pressure almost physically weighs down on me. I've been stuck at the peak of this realm for 30 years. As long as I devour your blood and flesh filled with dragon aura, I, the first water rhino buffalo in River Clear, obey and let the king crush your bones. Perhaps I might spare you a trace of your life essence. You want my dragon aura, but I'm afraid your dumb buffalo stomach isn't big enough. You might burst your belly. I can tell. This black water buffalo is terrifyingly strong, with amazing defenses, but its intelligence doesn't seem that high. This type of brute force demon relied only on raw power, and may dominate the cultivation world for a while. But to me, an experienced veteran who survived life and death, armed with human combat wisdom, it's just a torch. The black water buffalo, courting death, was utterly crushed by my contempt. He let out a furious roar. His massive 4 hooves suddenly stomped on the riverbed rocks. A bluestone as big as a millstone was instantly crushed to powder beneath him. Right after that, the black water buffalo lowered, his gigantic body topped with those terrifying double horns. He was like a derailed, heavy train underwater. With an aura that could tear everything apart, he launched a primal, savage charge straight at me. Under the force of his head, the current was forcibly split, leaving a visible, white vacuum zone. Those pitch-black horns were like 2 massive, unstoppable chisels. Wherever they passed, whether rock or river grass, they would be pulverized to dust. Facing such an overwhelming assault, I didn't choose to take it head-on like some mindless fiend. Because I knew the black water buffalo's weight and momentum were massive. If I tried to go head-to-head with my 3-foot-long body, I would definitely get sent flying, maybe even have my bones shattered in the water. If you want to outmaneuver me, you're still too inexperienced. Just as the black water buffalo's deadly hooves were about to touch me, I swiftly dodged. In my line of sight, the turbulent currents stirred up by his charge appeared crystal clear, like a complex 3D network. I could even spot the weakest points in the water pressure right in front of his horns. Water control glide. As I focused my mind, my golden red carp tail fin quivered ever so slightly in the cramped space, at an incredible, almost impossible frequency. My body didn't retreat backwards, but instead followed the raging current. He churned up along the edge, like a leaf drifting perfectly with the wild wind, missing him by a hair's breadth, gracefully, slipping right past the black water buffalo's right cheek. The black water buffalo only saw a blur before his eyes. His seemingly inescapable fatal strike actually missed. Because of his charge, the inertia was just too strong.
He couldn't stop himself in time.
With a thunderous crash, his giant body slammed viciously into a huge stone mound on the riverbed behind him. The entire mound collapsed with a roar under his terrifying strength. Countless rocks buried half his body. This dumb buffalo sure is strong, though. I stopped not far away, watching the black water buffalo buried under rubble, a flicker of golden light flashing in my eyes. Even though I'd dodged the attack just now, I had truly felt How thick and dense his dark scales were. That kind of defense must be several times tougher than the blue shrimp king's shell. Even if I got behind him, it'd still be hard to actually hurt him. The black water buffalo struggled up from the rubble. He shook his head, scattering rocks from his body. He wasn't hurt, but the humiliation of being toyed with by a mere little reptile got to him. You slippery loach, all you do is hide. He knew he couldn't match me in agility, so he immediately changed tactics. His thick column-like limbs dug deep into the riverbed mud. Then he opened that giant black hole-like mouth and began furiously sucking in the surrounding river water. What's he trying to do? I frowned. As the black water buffalo kept sucking, the water that had been calm around him suddenly started swirling violently. 30 feet, 60 feet, 90 feet, all within mere moments. An underwater vortex many times larger than his earlier charge exploded into form with him as the center. The vortex's suction was unbelievably terrifying. All the fish and shrimp who hadn't escaped far away, the remains of dead blue shrimp, even the giant boulders on the riverbed, were irresistibly sucked into the vortex. There, they were shredded to pieces by the swirling current. Not good. I instantly felt an enormous tugging force pulling at my body. My prized water-controlling magic was suddenly useless in the face of the black water buffalo's brute force vortex. My body started sliding forward uncontrollably, straight toward the center of the whirlpool and the black water buffalo. At the very center of the vortex, the black water buffalo lifted that jet-black horn high, a cruel, savage grin on his lips. As soon as I get dragged close enough, he'll skewer me and pin me to the rock like a kebab. Just as I desperately channeled my demon power, trying to fight that terrifying suction, a figure appeared even though aged. The green shell radiated resolute determination. Suddenly, it shot out from a crack in the rocks nearby, like an indestructible shield, blocking me from the heart of that terrifying whirlpool. My lord, this old one will hold him off for you. It was the old river turtle who'd lived for 80 years. He was actually protecting me, slamming his cracked shell hard against the black water buffalo. Those horns, strong enough to shatter a boulder, made a bone-chilling sound of fracturing that stood out amidst the whirling vortex. The river turtle's proudest possession, the heavy shell hardened by 80 long years, clashed against the black water buffalo's ink-black horn, and in an instant, it was like a porcelain vase struck by a mighty hammer, instantly covered in spiderweb-like cracks. Fragments of shattered shell spread out mournfully in the raging current. Old man, are you not afraid of death? As I fought against the vortex, my body stabilized with a jolt. My dark golden vertical pupils contracted sharply. I never would have expected, in this survival of the fittest, selfish world at the bottom of cultivation, that this old turtle I'd just met hours ago would actually risk himself for me, a newly arrived flood dragon, just to block this lethal attack. My lord, let this old one help you. The old river turtle's tiny green eyes burned with a stubborn madness. King can't let these mortals keep going unchecked. My lord, you carry the dragon bones. You're the hope of King. Even if these old bones must die, I will help you tear off a piece of this stubborn buffalo's hide. Get out of my way, you meddling old turtle. The black water buffalo was furious. He whipped his mountain-sized head and sent the old turtle flying. Now's my chance. The shock in my eyes instantly turned to cold killing intent. I couldn't let the opening created by the old turtle go to waste. My golden red tail fin whipped powerfully, and my entire 3-foot body shot forward like a cyan arrow loosed from a bowstring, skimming the edge of the current, in a surprisingly bizarre arc, to the underside flank of the black water buffalo's massive form. I channeled all the power in my body, pouring it into my head without holding back, into those two newly forming horn buds. Supple and agile, I focused all my force at a single point. My 3-foot body tensed in the water, like a fully drawn bow. Then boom. At the bottom of the river, a burst of white bubbles exploded. My entire body turned into a sharp blue blade. With unstoppable determination, I fiercely charged straight at the black water buffalo's belly. With a muffled, tearing boom, it erupted underwater with thunderous force. The black water buffalo let out the most tragic howl of its life. It was a bone-crushing, fatal blow. Its massive body gave a sudden kick, then started thrashing and convulsing wildly at the riverbed. The agony drove it instantly insane. Instinctively, it released its powerful aura, the demonic energy of the whirlpool. Its enormous forelegs flailed around underwater. The surrounding river water churned as if boiling. The tremendous impact force sent the already unconscious old crane flying.
He crashed hard against a rock.
At that moment, I was deeply buried inside the black water buffalo's belly cavity. The buffalo's muscles were frantically contracting, trying to crush the intruder inside it to death. The terrifying pressure made me feel like my blue scales were about to be shattered. Still wanted to resist? A flash of fury appeared in my eyes. In my past life, I'd been beaten countless times. The thing I fear least is a brawl. I wasn't in a hurry to escape. Instead, I opened my mouth full of fine teeth. Those dark gold whiskers were like two deadly vipers. They instantly latched onto the inside of the buffalo's belly, charged up the electro whiskers to full power, unleashed the primary toxin. I unleashed both of these deadliest trump cards directly inside the completely unguarded black water buffalo and set them off completely. This was true internal destruction. A double blow from both the genetic and physical levels. On the outside, the black water buffalo's struggling slowed down. Its howls of pain gradually turned into whimpers of despair. Torn apart by lightning, melted by poison, this agony was something this brute who only knew brute force and tough armor, this reckless beast, could never comprehend. Its massive body was quickly losing all strength. Finally, this once invincible overlord of the Upper King River collapsed with a thunderous crash. On the blood-stained riverbed, it raised a huge cloud of mud and sand. In the deathly silent river bottom, other than the sound of flowing water, the wild breathing of the black water buffalo was gone forever. Behind the black water buffalo, the herd of buffalo monsters who had been ready to charge now saw their king die in such a bizarre and tragic way, at the hands of a 3-foot-long little flood dragon. One by one, they were scared out of their wits. They let out terrified cries and fled madly toward the middle buffalo, never looking back. A moment later, although I was exhausted, my dark gold vertical pupils shone with frightening light. No matter how thick your armor is, you can't withstand rotting from the inside out. I shot a cold look at the black water. System detects a first-tier peak demon beast. Target black water life. Signs have disappeared. Because the host defeated a much stronger enemy and used perfect tactics of limb dissection and internal explosion. System rating, excellent. Devouring successful. Congratulations, host has received the monthly tier reward. 800 points awarded. Detection. Target's body contains an extremely thin ancient water element. Bloodline being deeply analyzed and extracted. Congratulations, host has successfully extracted dragon traits. Gene bank match. Type new A. It was as if a bolt of thunder exploded in my mind. 3 and 4 of the 9 major characteristics of the ox-eared true dragon. I originally thought killing this black water ox would earn me 10 points at most. I didn't expect to complete the set directly. Should the 3rd dragon characteristic be fused immediately? Dragon characteristic. Ox ears fuse immediately. I did not hesitate. In this dangerous world, every bit of strength gained is an extra bit of capital for survival. A black halo peeled away from the black water ox. Following the current, it sank directly into both sides of my blue-scaled head. There was none of the searing pain from when I fused the blind eyes earlier. This time, what I felt was an extremely cool and transparent sensation. It was like ears that had been sealed for many years, suddenly being blown open by a gust of fresh wind. On both sides of my skull, where there were originally only 2 tiny spiracles, a pair of extremely small oracles slowly grew out, as crystal clear as green jade. These ears didn't look as heavy as those of an ordinary ox. Instead, they carried an indescribable air of divinity. Accompanying the formation of the ears, my sense of hearing underwent a qualitative leap. I heard extremely faint sounds. From 100 feet away, a drop of water slid down from between the leaves of watergrass, the sound of it hitting the fine sand of the riverbed. I could even clearly distinguish, as the current shuttled through different terrains, the different resulting effects produced. What was even more miraculous was that I could not only hear sounds, but I could also hear the frequency of life. Turning my head, those newly grown ox ears twitched slightly, locking onto a rock not far away. There I heard an extremely weak heartbeat, like a flickering candle in the wind. My heart eased slightly, and I hurriedly swam over. Among the pile of rubble, the old river turtle's massive body lay there quietly. His shell was more than half shattered, but he indeed still had a breath left. I swam in front of the old turtle, without any hesitation, and began to take the most pure, power of profound water blending from within my body, slowly injecting it into the old turtle's body. The old turtle opened his eyes slightly. Though his voice was weak, it was full of ecstasy. "You killed that monster. You did it. Shut up and recover properly." I interrupted him. Though my voice was cold, it carried a hint of indisputable dominance. "Since you have acknowledged me as master, without my permission, you cannot die." After speaking, I turned around, looking at the massive carcass of the black water ox, an ambitious light flashing in my eyes. I now possess 1,300 evolution points. Not only that, I have also fused the fishtail, blind eyes, and ox ears, 3 major dragon characteristics. My strength has undergone an earth-shattering change. However, before I could immerse myself in the joy of victory, my newly fused and extremely sensitive ox ears suddenly captured a sound that made the scales all over my body stand on end. It was an extremely heavy and slow, yet apocalyptic and oppressive, heartbeat. This sound didn't come through the water waves, but rang directly in the depths of my soul. This heartbeat came from the furthest upstream of the Qing River. Accompanying the heartbeat was an extremely thick, terrifyingly bloody stench carrying the aura of death. This scent followed the current, instantly filling the entire gourd-shaped area. The old river turtle's already weak consciousness, the moment it touched this aura, shook violently with fear. The old turtle let out a desperate cry. "It's him, that century-old demon, Black Crocodile."
"He's coming."
That thunderous heartbeat followed the water veins, extremely overbearing, crushing every life in the mainstream of the Qing River. The blue scales all over my body flared uncontrollably. This was a wariness originating from the depths of the bloodline, the instinctive fear a low-level spirit beast feels when facing an absolute superior. I stared fixedly upstream. The river water that had gradually calmed, due to the death of the black water ox, was now flowing backward in a bizarre manner. That was an illusion caused by the water pressure difference, produced by a massive object moving at high speed in the water. A stench so thick it almost couldn't be dispersed, like an invisible black net, instantly enveloped this stretch of water. Coming so fast. My pupils constricted sharply, pushing my insight to the limit. At the end of my vision, in the originally clear depths, a massive black shadow appeared. That shadow even blocked the sunlight from the surface, like an underwater fortress on the move. Tenjianglong, a terrifying body like a stone statue. Is this the true overlord of the Qing River, the Black Crocodile? I gasped inwardly. In the spirit beast compendium of the cultivation world, black crocodiles are already extremely troublesome existences. They possess scales comparable to Vajra, a terrifying bite force, and extremely insidious patience in lurking. And this 100-year-old black crocodile before me has clearly crossed the threshold of a rank 1 spirit beast, reaching at least the terrifying realm of early rank 2. Even more frightening, I felt from him an extremely tyrannical, undisguised sense of craving. "Little reptile, you have the scent of the ancestor on you." Like 2 rusty iron plates rubbing together, the divine sense produced was like an ice pick, stabbing fiercely into my mind. The black crocodile had already developed high-level intelligence. He didn't care at all about that miserably killed black water ox. Didn't even spare it a glance. In his eyes, whether it was the green prong king or the black water ox, they were nothing more than livestock raised in this river. What truly attracted him, to pull away from the dragon vein phenomena upstream, was the pure true dragon aura on me. He had been stuck at early rank 2 for many years. He craved evolution more than any other beast. As long as he swallowed this little flood dragon, possessing dragon characteristics, he could shed his crocodile form and turn into a true evil dragon. Run! This was the only thought that flashed through my mind. Without a moment's hesitation, I knew that with my current strength, facing this rank 2 black crocodile was no different from hitting a rock with an egg. Even if I fused 3 dragon characteristics, even if I had 1,300 unused evolution points, in the face of absolute realm suppression, any skill is futile. Water control maximum burst. My body twisted violently. The gold-red carp tail fin whipped a white trail in the water. I even burned a small portion of my extremely precious source blood, forcing my speed up to an incredible level. I didn't run downstream, because the downstream waters were open. Before the absolute speed of the black crocodile, running that way would be waiting for death. Like a bolt of blue lightning, I headed straight toward the side of the river channel, into a complex forest of underwater rocks. The underwater terrain there was extremely rugged, filled with stalagmites and narrow crevices. That was the only chance of survival I could currently think of. Thinking of running? In my river, can you escape? Black Croc's hoarse laughter echoed underwater. His massive body suddenly whipped its tail. A deafening boom erupted like an underwater explosion. Black Croc didn't use any magic. He relied solely on his sheer physical strength, and completely forced out the river water within several dozen feet around him, forming a giant vacuum tunnel. His body, over 30 feet long, was like a black torpedo in that tunnel, moving with a despair-inducing speed, instantly closing the distance between us. He was so fast my eyes could still clearly see Black Croc's trajectory, but my body simply couldn't react in time to dodge. It was just like a regular person seeing a high-speed train rushing toward them, but unable to move out of the way. The distance between us shrunk to less than 15 feet in the blink of an eye. Black Croc's jaws, filled with row after row of barbed razor-sharp fangs, were already opening slowly. A wave of overwhelming death loomed over my spine. Damn it, I know I can't escape. So I spun around in the water, trying to make one last stand with toxins and stored up electric charge, before Black Croc bites down. Even if I die, I want to break a few of this old monster's teeth. At that critical moment, a bubble suddenly burst out from the reeds to the side. It was Old River Turtle. This old turtle is actually helping me at this moment. A flash of murderous rage appeared in Black Croc's eyes, but right now he didn't have time to deal with Old Turtle. Without a pause, I fought down the urge to turn around and attack, took advantage of that split-second Old Turtle bought me, and darted headlong into the labyrinth of rocks. My blue body weaved perilously through the stone pillars, quietly vanishing into the darkness. Old Turtle also took advantage of the chaos to sneak away. Crafty reptile. Black Croc jerked his head around. Those blood-red eyes burned into the rocks as he let out a furious roar. Relying on his tough hide, he rammed himself straight into the rock forest. Dozens of massive stone pillars shattered under his terrifying assault. Crumbling to pieces, he was like a ruthless bulldozer, bent on leveling the rock forest to the ground. But the terrain was just too complex. My 3-foot-long body moved through it like a fish in water. Relying on my double-pupiled God's eye view, I slipped through the narrow gaps, even using the collapsed rocks as cover for my movements. But Black Croc's 30-foot-long body became a burden here. He constantly got stuck in massive crevices, and although he could force his way out, his speed slowed dramatically. After half an hour, after destroying most of the rock forest, Black Croc finally stopped. He stood amid a field of wreckage, those icy cold eyes scanning the muddy river water around, but could no longer sense me at all. That little shark really vanished into thin air. Run all you want. Where can you possibly go? Unless you leave the clear river forever. Otherwise, somewhere in this river, you'll eventually end up as my meal. For now, I'll head upstream to get that item. Once I become a true evil dragon, I'll personally overturn the entire clear river and chew you to pieces, inch by inch. Black Croc's gigantic body slowly turned, radiating endless murderous intent and greed, and swam toward the upstream, where golden light shimmered. Lower reaches of the Qing River. In an extremely hidden, bottomless, muddy cave, darkness enveloped everything. A drop of dark red blood slid down from my deep blue-green scales. In the final moment when I escaped, although I dodged the black eel's direct bite, I was still struck by the terrifying gust from its tail. Even just the aftershock from that airflow made a large patch of scales on my back crack open. Several ribs broke cleanly and pierced deep into my organs. This is the most severe injury I've suffered since my rebirth. If not for fusing with Li Yuiki's vigorous life force and resilient, nimble defense, I'd already be a corpse by now. How terrifying. Black Eel. A second-rank demon beast is actually this powerful. Curled up in the freezing mud, gasping for breath, my mind kept replaying that deep sense of powerlessness and humiliation, eating away at my heart like a venomous snake. I thought after killing 2 local rulers in succession, I'd become someone of importance. But before a true powerhouse, I'm still nothing but an ant that can be casually crushed. I'm not strong enough yet. Not even close. A burning obsession flared up within me. I have to get stronger as soon as possible. Not just for revenge, but also to go upstream and fight for the revival opportunity of the dragon vein. If the black eel gets that, I'll truly never rise again. System, open the panel. I growled in my heart. Host's remaining evolution points, 1,300. Serious injuries detected on host. Would you like to spend evolution points for forced recovery? I gritted my teeth and refused to spend those 1,300 points. I risked my life for those evolution points. It would be such a waste to heal with them. I carry the bloodline of mysterious water fusion. As long as I don't die, my wounds will recover eventually. What I need is even greater power, or to seek outside help. Just as I was desperately trying to find a way out, an idea suddenly flashed through my mind. Old River Turtle, previously, had accidentally revealed a secret to me. On Misty Mountain next to the Qing River, there lives a 1,000-year-old spirit beast, the Yunlu. The black eel has long wanted to devour its horn. My eyes suddenly lit up. A 1,000-year Yunlu on Misty Mountain. In the dim, muddy cave, the water flowed extremely slowly, carrying away traces of bloody scent. I coiled in the mud, my dark gold eyes glowing madly in the darkness. A Misty Mountain Yunlu is no ordinary demon beast, but rather an extraordinarily rare auspicious beast, born with starlit wood and water attributes in their spiritual energy. Gentle by nature, never kill proactively. In legends, those 1,000-year Yunlu, their antlers, not only contain vast, pure essence of herbs and wood, but also hold a mysterious world-purifying power. No wonder that Black Eel was targeting the Yunlu. I sneered. Black Eel, a brute filled with violent, murderous energy. At the peak of the 2nd rank or when breaking into the 3rd, that's when they're most likely to draw a heavenly tribulation's deadly lightning strike. But if it consumes a 1,000-year Yunlu horn, it can purge all its sins, greatly increasing the chance of becoming a true dragon. More importantly, Old River Turtle once mentioned, one of the 9 traits of a true dragon is old antlers. If I can obtain the Yunlu's horn, I'll not only gain a huge amount of evolution points again, but integrate a 4th dragon trait. By then, my strength will make a qualitative leap. Facing that black eel, I might actually stand a chance. Though my injuries are severe, they're not fatal. I felt the fractured ribs in my body and my ruptured organs. I forcibly mobilized my little remaining mysterious water demon power and formed it into a thin water membrane, wrapping those fragile organs, barely keeping my body functioning. I must get the Yunlu horn before Black Eel reaches the opportunity upstream. I made up my mind. I slowly moved my injured body, enduring sharp, tearing pain, and slipped out of the muddy cave without a sound.
It was already deep into the night.
A waning moon reflected on the surface of the starlit river, cold and desolate. I didn't travel underwater, because in the water, my presence would be easily detected by black eels remaining scouts. I swam to the shore, my deep blue-green scales glinting coldly in the moonlight. Cloud step, go. I gave a mental command. A patch of mist, slightly bigger than before, gathered beneath my belly. My 3-foot-long body rose into the air, but badly wounded. I couldn't fly very high this time, only skimming over the tall reeds, like a passing ghost, soaring towards the towering mountain. Beside the Qing River, Misty Mountain, here I come.